Hey guys, hey guys, how you doing? Just walking on my way home here. It's not a long walk, but just closed up the shop. Heading home. Walking down here to the beach. Oh, maybe I'll walk up to the beach. Who knows what I'll do? Who knows? I don't really know what to talk about today. It's I feel like life kind of just grabs you by the chest and pulls you along, and there's a momentum that you can get caught in. And I definitely feel caught in it. It's harder to deep dive into news. It's harder to pay as close attention to news. I understand why people don't, right? It's hard. It's tricky. It's easy to get sort of this glancing idea. And I think that's intentional. Like, I think if you're as busy as you are, because you live in a capitalist society, so obviously you're busy, you can only really get a glancing look, like a couple of headlines here and there. That's really all you have the time for. And if you have these glancing headlines, then you're easily manipulatable, right? You're manipulatable. Yeah. I miss interacting with the children so much, like right now we're masks on in the store, where it's mandatory masks in the store. And people really are just kind of coming in, getting stuff and leaving. It's less hanging around. We're not really playing with toys so much. I miss the kids. I do. They're sweet. They're so sweet, and they're honest, and they there's no barriers. They just live and love and have a good time. And starting to get another rain here. It's a bit rainy today, so I might seek shelter here soon. Well. One of the things I have been thinking about, because you guys know me, I like to think in a sort of large meta sense, or systemically, if you prefer. That's one thing, actually, I'd like to, I play video games. I'm a video game guy. I work in a toy store. I play with toys. big goddamn shock. I think playing video games and playing games and those sort of things give you a better idea, a better sense of systems, or when people say things like there is systemic racism or there is systemic bigotry, there are systemic issues, there are issues with the capitalist system, that kind of thing. It's easier to understand that if you're spending time interacting with systems, which that's what games are, and board games, and like Monopoly. Monopoly is a system. It's got a series of rules that you abide by, and it's structured in a way. And so I think people need to play more games and understand, if you're in a system, right? If you exist in a system. But the individualists don't like to admit that they live in a system. They think that, no, this is just a series of individuals operating, negotiating with each other on equal terms, right? That kind of delusional, deluded position that is so easy to show as fallible, but it requires somebody who's actually capable of understanding or capable of listening. I heard a really powerful quote today on that specific point, I forget who even said it, but if Jesus Christ himself was forced to lift up a whip to drive the wealthy out of the temples, you can be sure it's because that's the only language they respect. I think there's something to that. I think there's something to that we just had a big protest, a big series of riots throughout America, and it seems like the capitalists really forced them to put their back up and really be, oh goodness, and actually, change at least the language that they use. Of course, they've done no systemic change whatsoever, because they're not interested in changing how the system operates. You work for them and they do nothing. That's the system. Why would they want to change that? But the thing that forced them to recognize that they needed to at least pretend like they cared they needed to at least respond to what was being said to them, is these acts of violence. That there's these smashing, people smashed their stuff. They broke their shit. And you're not going to ignore that. And if you're a capitalist, that really is the only language you respect, ultimately. Right? I've been thinking a lot about, today Jordan Peterson has been popping into my head a lot today, which drives me crazy, because I don't really, I mean, I think I respect Jordan Peterson, like, as a person, like, as just, like, he is a person that lives in the world, but his ideology is completely off the mark. And, like, his life gives lie to his own ideological opinings, right? The guy is in a drug-induced, self-inflicted coma, right? So we're talking about a guy who literally is walking around telling everyone that the path forward is through your own individual effort and stand up straight with your shoulders back and all this kind of stuff, which on the surface seems harmless enough. But then at the end of the day, like, like, where's all that individualism now? Where's all this? Where is all of it? You know, it's kind of this total farce. And we are living in this period that is just a complete farce, right? Like, and all of these lies that we've been told our whole lives are just being revealed as a complete and total farce. Like neoliberalism. If you hear the waves in the background here, guys, I'm just walking down the beach here. But neoliberalism is a complete farce. And it's been completely revealed to be a farce. And what drives me crazy right now is that our left leaders, our leftist leaders, are just softballing it right now. They're just as limp and ineffectual and cowardly as they can possibly be, right? They're not sitting there with the rage that exists in the society, right? People are being evicted from their homes. People are being thrust into poverty. Like, people are being rendered homeless, and there's just an absolute destruction of what's going on in people's lives. And our left leaders are just these simpering nothings. Like, I'm talking to you, Andrea Horath. Like, just today, Andrea Horath is like, oh, this is like a rerun of the liberal years. This is the sick burn that she's laid at the sociopath Doug Ford's feet. Oh, it's a lot like the liberals. Now, I think I understand where she's coming from, which is to point out that the liberals and the conservatives are allied. They work together for the same people towards the same goals, impoverishing the same people, enriching the same people, right? Liberals are just better liars, so they make a little bit more headway. Conservatives don't lie so much about what they say. They're quite open that their position is that they want to betray a large section of the populace. And, you know, they can gather enough support behind that kind of fascist alpha male mindset. So every so often they do manage to attain power and have everybody show them how terrible it is when conservatives get into power. But ultimately, so like Andrea Horath saying, like, it's a lot like the liberal years. It is like she's pointing that out, but it's such this softball nonsense, right? Like, Andrea Horath should be like eviscerating people. She's the leader of the NDP here in Ontario. She should absolutely be eviscerating people. She should be eviscerating Doug Ford. Doug Ford's a man-child, right? She should call him a man-child. She shouldn't have respect for these people. I don't understand why she should have any respect for these people whatsoever. These nightmare sociopaths who are fine with evicting people, fine in the middle of a pandemic, fine with throwing people out. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the stakes can get higher, but if the stakes get any higher than this, we're talking about, like, a complete and total displacement of populations. We're talking about, like, a mass upheaval if the stakes were to get any higher than this. But to hear Andrea Horath tell it, it's like, oh, you know, I think we could do a little bit better. I think we here at the NDP could just, do it a little bit better. I am ready for an NDP leader. I am ready for a paper bag that has a voice recording of Krusty the Clown saying, we should burn the system to the ground, take the wealth away from the sociopaths who are building a structure to destroy us all, redistribute it into the populace, and restructure our society so that capitalism is never part of it ever again because it fails to the ground. Like, our entire system and our entire structure is built around this idea that capitalism is capable of being good. And it simply isn't true. It simply isn't true. And like now it's getting to the point, like, because all the evidence is in front of you, where I'm beginning to wonder, like I had a customer come in today, and I think she had dementia, right? Like, not like major, full-blown, like crazy town, but just she was like not connecting to things, and it was difficult communicating, and I tried to, and I did my best to ensure that she had a good experience, because that's my job, and I take pride in that work of helping people and ensuring that they do well. And she got what she was looking for, she thinks, and was able to pay and get out of the store, successfully. But for sure she was struggling. For sure she was struggling. And they're really just, and I can't help but intertwine that experience and the experiences that I'm having with these type of people more and more into the political realm. Like, at what point do we have to start saying to people who are denying climate change still, and people who are defending climate change denialists and defending the people who are refusing to actually move forward on this, at what point do we need to start wondering, I think maybe these people have some dementia. I think that there might be some mental illness that's coming into play. You take a look at someone like Donald Trump, and Joe Biden for that matter, and you're like, I really do think there might be some dementia at play, I really do think that there's some pretty significant mental illnesses that are coming into play. And these are people who have power over nuclear bombs and the like, right? And we're just walking around, living our lives, and there are these demented madmen who have control not only of nuclear bombs, but of like economic forces that can literally wipe away entire communities because we're just ignoring climate change. Maybe when Florida goes, right? I think that's got to be a moment, right? Like when Florida is gone. Because I do think that there just comes this moment where, like, perhaps it's if, a major ice flow in Antarctica or something, a major chunk of ice just breaks off Antarctica and falls into the ocean, right? And starts circulating around and melts into the ocean so that the ocean levels suddenly rise, and we have this massive series of hurricanes. Maybe it's when the methane pockets that are under the Siberian ice in Russia, maybe it's when those are released into the atmosphere, right? And suddenly the O2 levels are diminished. Maybe, I do think that there's some kind of completely sudden, completely unexpected, well, shouldn't say unexpected, there are those of us who expect this kind of thing pretty openly. Like, I'm standing here saying I expect this to happen. I don't quite know how or when, obviously, but the trajectory is there, the timeline is there. And like, when this event happens, when this hurricane finally hits, when the sea levels rise, and we lose Florida, will we begin then to actually mobilize things? But if our leadership is demented, right? And if the people who are voting for our leaders have dementia, which it seems to be that is the case, right? Like, we're talking about this huge chunk of baby boomers that are getting into this age now where they're beginning to have declining health and declining mental issues and all of this. And they staunchly believe that they need to go vote for people who are actively working to destroy the society. You know? Like, how do we pull up on this? How do we actually fight back? And in the meantime, while we're attempting to fight back, our own leadership is just as spineless as it can be. They're just not willing to stand up and actually say what has to be said. They're not willing to take the fight. They're not willing to go to these people's houses. Like, because that's what it is going to take. Like, once Florida's gone, like, once this nonsense ramps up, like, what else is left? You're just going to let these smug capitalists retreat into their gated communities? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, crazy times ahead. Crazy times ahead. And I'm very thankful. And I hope that as you're listening to this, if you are, that you're taking a moment to realize and think about how thankful. Find the things that you can be thankful for. You know, I think that's important to do, if you can. I think that there are people in the world who are in this world and they don't have much to be thankful for because of the structure of the society. I saw this really great quote. Capitalists believe that people should serve the market, and if a person can't serve the market, then they have no value. Socialists believe that markets should serve the people, and if the market doesn't serve the people, then it has no value. And I think that's goddamn right. That's why I don't have respect for capitalists, right? They value this ideology above people, and then scream at socialists calling us the ideologues when we're standing here saying we should take care of people. That's who should be taken care of first and foremost, our people. And we're not actually listening, and we're not actually paying any attention to people and the needs that people have. Like, the Liberals gave some money to individual people during this COVID-19 crisis, but then they also went ahead and basically propped up capitalism. And it's not the capitalists that are going to pay for that. It's the middle class that's going to pay for that. It's the workers that are going to pay for that. It's the managerial class that's going to pay for that, right? It's not the billionaires. The billionaires aren't going to pay for that. They're the ones that are going to stand on their pile of gold and go, how are you going to pay for that? Like the idiots they are, because they don't do any work. They don't know anything. They're functionally illiterate. They just live in these little bubbles surrounded by their yes men, who of course say yes to everything. Why wouldn't they? Right? Like, if you're a billionaire, you literally can just give a guy $50 million to run whatever business you want. Right? You don't need to actually run anything. You don't need to know anything about anything. You just need to know that you're rich. And just kind of go along your life like that. I don't understand why we give these people any credence whatsoever. They shouldn't exist in our society whatsoever. They don't even live in it. They live in this bubble world that distorts the society in ways that we can't even begin to comprehend or communicate, right? Like, just a billionaire, just one billionaire, distorts the society in a way that I don't even understand how anyone can stomach it. Right? Like, if you're a billionaire, you have this whole industry that exists just to serve your whims. Right? And it just What are you even talking about? Why should these people exist? Why should they have any power in the society whatsoever? They didn't even earn it. Like this whole they earned it delusion. Forget that. Well, guys, I know that this is kind of I'm always a downer when I listen here, so I'm trying to find ways to lighten the mood. And I think I may have found a way to lighten the mood at the end of this. Say hi to Milo. Hi, Milo. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Oh, yeah, my good friend Milo. Yeah, it's my good buddy Milo. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. All right, guys. Find someone to love. Go get fucked. Have fun.